Store and restaurant employees, what are your customer horror stories?
I work at a gas station, and for the most part really do like my job. The only thing that customers do that really bother me is say perverted things to me that make me uncomfortable. The other day, I'm out at the dumpster by myself throwing away trash, and this man comes up to me and says, "Why is it that all the girls who work here have the perfect ass?" Another day this regular came up and said, "It looks like you've been putting on some weight." At the horrified look on my face he added, "Don't worry, it's in all the right places." And then just several stories of regulars at the same age as my father, who would take my friendly customer service as an open invitation to ask me out. I've learned how to stay friendly and keep away the comments.
Long time ago, I ran a little electronics store where people usually come if they were having problems with their phones or cameras. Anyway, one day this absolutely smoking hot Asian lady comes into the store. Seriously, could have been one of the most beautiful women I have ever seen in my life. She asks me if I could help her by showing her how to access the pictures that she has taken on the phone. Naturally, I was not about to turn down an opportunity to help her, so I explained to her how to access her photos. But instead of seeming happy about this discovery, she just stared closely at the pictures. Again, she stood there stone-cold staring at the photos, and I watched her face turn to a frown, and before I knew it she was standing in the middle of the store in tears. I didn't know what to do, but as she stood with the phone dangling from her hand, I could see the image was a man naked with another woman, and it wasn't her. I put two and two together at that point. I did my best to try and console her, but really, what was I going to say? Soon after, she disappeared from the store. Later that night, I was getting ready to shut down the store when this complete douchebag walked in. We used to get a lot of douchebag guys, so they were easy to spot. He asked to speak with the manager of the store, and I told him that I was that person. He then proceeds to tell his story about how one of my associates exposed his private information to his wife. I immediately knew who he was, but he didn't know that I was the person that helped her. I began asking him questions, knowing what the answers were, but making it increasingly difficult for him not to divulge his secret. He started getting really pissed off with me and demanded that I tell him which of my employees helped his wife. The more I resisted, the more and more angry he got with me until he started demanding names from our corporate office, which there weren't any. By this point, he was clearly fed up, realizing that I wasn't going to give him what he wanted. Meanwhile, I was chuckling on the inside, watching him dance around what private information he was talking about. Finally, he was on his way out the door when he left me with some parting words. He said, "You need to teach your employees not to be so stupid in giving out other people's private information." To which I responded, "And you need to not be so stupid by taking photos of you cheating on your wife on your cell phone." His jaw dropped and his face went pale. He stared at me for a moment, then turned and walked out.
First job working at a grocery store. I'm walking back to the break room for lunch when I see an older lady reaching for some milk. I start to walk over to help her when she knocks a whole half-gallon of milk off the shelf, and it breaks open on her head, drenching her with milk. She immediately looks around, sees me in a store outfit, and starts yelling and screaming about how I poured milk on her head. She goes to the front and I start setting up slippery floor signs before heading up as well. She is talking to the store director about how I came up behind her and poured a half-gallon of milk on her head, and demanded I get fired immediately. The store director looks at me and asks me if I poured milk on her head, and I, almost laughing now, tell him I would never do something like that, and that he could check the camera records if he liked. When she heard camera, she pretty much tried to change her whole story, and my store director told her to get out and never come back into the store.
Back when I worked at a GameStop before I finished school, we were in the middle of the busy Christmas season. We were receiving over 50 boxes of merchandise a day to restock the shelves. However, our back room was the size of a walk-in closet and a bathroom, so after stuffing the bathroom and the office, we would usually have boxes sitting next to the register that just wouldn't fit anywhere till we unpacked them. The store was crowded when my manager noticed this kid, 10 to 12 years old, sitting on one of the boxes. He politely walked over and told the kid, "There's expensive stuff in here, buddy, please don't sit on it." 2 minutes later, these tattooed thugs storm up to the counter and say, "You yell at my brother," and the guy literally slaps my manager and heads for the door. I jumped from behind the counter and took off after him along with a customer in line who joined my chase. Between us and mall security, we caught him before he left. As we were waiting for cops to arrive, the guy started crying because he was on probation for something. Oh, sweet justice.
A friend of mine worked at a GameStop, and a lady came and left her kid there. Dumb parents, it happens, they run to the CVS next door for a minute or two, then come back. This lady, however, was gone for hours and hours. The kid walks out of the store, my friend assuming he was running out to mom's car or something, plus he's not a babysitter. An hour later, the lady comes back and loses it, screaming about her kid being gone and my friend not watching him. She calls the police, and as you can guess, she gets in numerous troubles for child abandonment.
Having owned a grocery store for many years, I've had some great and some really insane customers. The one that sticks out the most was a lady around Christmas time. She bought a frozen turkey from me and left happy. A few days later, she came storming back into my store. She proceeded to throw this bag of turkey at me and started tearing me apart for the subpar turkey, screaming. This turkey was so terrible I couldn't cut it, and when I did, it tasted like crap. I had my whole family there for dinner, and this turkey ruined the entire meal. As I took the turkey out of the bag to check, I noticed that she managed to cook the thing not only with the bag of offal still inside, but even the plastic wrap that all frozen turkeys come in. Even after pointing this out to her, I was still the bad guy. I couldn't win. Forever after that, we referred to her as the Turkey Nazi.
Working at Taco Bell 4 summers ago, this lady pulls into the drive-thru and demands to speak with the manager. We ask her if she could please pull around in front and a manager will be out to meet her so she doesn't block the drive-thru. She says she can't because she's handicapped. Not sure how that prevents her from parking and letting a manager talk to her. As she drives by the window where I am taking the drive-thru orders, I catch a glimpse of the single fattest woman I have ever seen. In the back seat is a very fat child, gender unknown, covered in puke. So he goes out to the front with her, and we can hear her screaming all the way inside the restaurant, with the doors closed. Apparently, our restaurant gave her son food poisoning, and he got sick during his soccer game and threw up all over himself. She wants a new meal, but with no poison on it this time. So we remake her order 3 grande meals, 10 tacos each, with extra cheese and sour cream, which her son will eat half of and then run around. In August, in Georgia. No handicap tag either. Total craziness.
I work in a garden store. A few weeks ago, a guy came in and asked for cucumbers. I lead him to the vegetable section and pull out a tray of English cukes. Guy yells, "Those aren't cucumbers. Those are pickles," flips the tray up in my face and storms out.
I used to work in the takeout section of a restaurant. One very hot summer day, like 103 degrees, this jumbo-sized woman came in to pick up her order. When it came time to pay, she reached inside her shirt, into her bra, and pulled out a $10. It was soaking with sweat. You know how American paper money is sort of pale green? This bill was forest green, so what it was. Fortunately, she put the bill on the counter instead of my hand. I just stared at it for a few seconds. Then I rang up the order and gave her change, without even touching the bill. After she walked out, I used a tissue to drop it into a drawer underneath the register. A few hours later, I slipped it into a cash drop and gave it to my manager.
I used to work at a Dairy Queen. An old man would come through every once in a while and order a small vanilla ice cream cone. He would pay in quarters that he glued to his fingers and held up to us to slowly peel them off.
I was once a customer in a supermarket, carrying my newborn son with me in a car seat carrier. Some woman puts her face right in his and starts talking loudly. I don't know her, she smells like BO, and my son has a scared look on his face. So I turn the car seat towards me, and her face is no longer in his. She gets some angry look on her face and storms off. I finish my shopping, and as I'm checking out, she is yelling at the store manager about how she's never been treated so badly by someone in the store, and how rude I was, and that was such an outrage. I just look at her and crack up. I explain to the manager that I don't know this crazy woman, that I simply turned my son's car seat so this rude woman wasn't right in his face. He looks at me helplessly and tells the woman there is nothing he can do because I don't work at the store. She demands I get banned from shopping there, and I laugh at her again. He just tells her eventually to leave or she'll be the banned one.
I worked in a coffee shop inside a shopping center, and well, I got to see all kinds of stupid, but one incident takes the cake. Some guy in his mid-30s decides the queue that I'm working solo is too long, so he jumps ahead and yells his order at me. I point to the line and say, "You'll have to wait your turn." So he goes to the back of the line, and within 10 minutes and 8 customers, I'm ready to take his order, at which point he turns around and says, "No, too late, you had your chance," and storms off.
Worked as a host for the Cheesecake Factory for 3 years. So many stories. It was a typical Saturday night. We were on a 60-minute wait for smaller parties, 2 to 4 people, which means there are already about 45 to 50 parties waiting. This 16-year-old girl walks in at 7:15 and tells me she has a party of 15 people. I tell her that the wait is going to be about 2 hours. She says, "But it's my birthday," and starts pouting. I explain that there is nothing I can do, and she walks away, screaming at me, "You're ruining my birthday."
My father works in a big store here in Italy, and he was at the return desk for a few years. A guy once showed up and wanted to give back a coffee machine well over the return period, so obviously my dad said no. After a few minutes of arguing, this man raised the coffee machine and threw it at my dad, who miraculously avoided it. He called the security and the dude guy was arrested. It seemed just a normal aggression by a stupid customer, but it was later discovered that he had a criminal record for assault and had a loaded gun in his pocket during the fight. My dad still gets shivers when he tells the story.
I used to work at a store that is like Home Depot. I am from Quebec. We don't have this specific brand. A man wanted a specific tool that was made for cutting ceramic, but he was planning on using it for metal. I told him multiple times it would not work. He responded he would try it anyways. I said, "You can buy it if you want, but I am warning you it will not function." He returned the next day with the tool destroyed from trying to cut metal. He told customer service, "Yes, I was informed that it wouldn't work, but I was still allowed to purchase it." This amazed me for a few reasons. The first was his honesty. He actually admitted we had a discussion on the topic. It would have been very easy for him to lie. The second, and greater, reason is that he felt we should have a policy against restraining people from buying things. He truly believed I should have stopped him from making his purchase. Whether he meant I should lock the cash register, deny him service, or physically restrain him, I still do not know.
In the early 1990s, I worked at the hotel near Walt Disney World as a concierge. The reception area had a few couches and chairs. One of the guests was sitting in the lounge reading a paper, and his daughter was jumping around the room, couch to chair to couch. I went over and asked him to please ask his daughter not to jump on the furniture, because she might fall and get hurt. He flips out on me, yelling, "Who do you think you are, telling me how to raise my kid?" As he's screaming at me, the little girl misses a couch, falls, and lands on a cut glass coffee table, breaking it. The guy grabs the crying child by the arm, says, "I told you not to jump around like that," and walks away.
I once had a customer try to throw their coffee at me. I had accidentally made a woman a latte with regular milk rather than soy. It was my fault and I apologized profusely. I told her I would make her another drink. This wasn't good enough for the woman. Like a crazed banshee she shrieked, "I need soy," and threw the latte at me. Fortunately, the lid stayed on and totally missed me. Instead, it exploded on impact and got all over the counters, cabinets and floor. The bright side is that the owner was in attendance. He made quick work of throwing that lady out, despite protests that she didn't get her coffee.
I work in a grocery store at a customer service desk. I basically answer phones, do returns, and point people to the restroom. On to my horror story. One day I had a girl in her early 20s come up to the desk and ask where the bathroom was. I kindly told her it was in the floral department and pointed her in that direction. She stood there for a moment and said thank you and walked out of the store. I found it quite weird, but when working in customer service, most people are weird. A couple minutes later, I had a customer come up to me and politely said, "Excuse me, sir, but I think someone peed all over your floor here." I walked around my counter and found a large puddle of piss where that girl was standing. I had to clean up her piss. That's my horror story.